Hi guys, how are you? I'm going to talk to you today about writing prompts for journal. And I'm going to talk to you about writing prompts in your journal for the end of the year to do like a little bit of review for the end of the year. I know a lot of people talk about journaling, and I'm sure over time you've heard lots of stuff about how great it is. I've heard that too. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, but is there any actual science behind it? And I'm here to tell you there is. So I'm not just somebody on the computer telling you, like, oh, go write in the journal because it's going to be some great thing and lots of people do it and it's going to be wonderful. Nor am I telling you that you should write in your journal every day. I'm just asking that you try this one little thing that I found extremely helpful and some of my clients found extremely helpful. And since it's the end of year, I'm going to ask if you can just do it based on the previous year. So, what is that scientific information about? Like, why is it so great? Well, it's over the years, there's been a lot of research into a lot of psychologists, and everybody has looked at this. They have found that when they ask people to journal, they found that it reduces anxiety, it reduces obsessive thoughts. So you know those thoughts that are in your head and you're just like can't stop thinking about it. You can't move on to anything else. It's kind of you're obsessed with it. It reduces that. It creates some awareness. It regulates your emotions. It has been shown to be something that encourages you to open up, and it can even speed up physical healing or keep you in a better health. And by that, I mean, there was one study that was done on people who had biopsies. And this, I think it was in New Zealand, and they did this study, and they had half the people who had biopsies journal afterwards, and then some of the other people didn't do anything. They found that the people who journaled actually did better, they healed faster. The same thing was done with people who had breast cancer, women who had breast cancer. I don't know if it was men too that had it, but anyway, they looked at journaling versus not journaling, and they found that the people who journaled went to the doctor less, had less complications, had a better effect with the medication. And then there has been a couple of, even recently, there's been a couple of researchers who found a little bit more information about it. There's a researcher out of the University of Texas, Austin, and he's been doing research on this for quite a long time. His name is James Pennebaker. I always have a hard time with his name. Dr. James Pennebaker, and he's out of University of Texas in Austin. And he did a lot of studies at the University of Texas in Austin. And what he did was he took university students who were stressed and he put them into two groups and had one set do some journaling. They were stressed because they were university students, you know, you get stressed. And then the other didn't, obviously. So you had a control and all that, and found that the folks that did the journaling, they did better over time. They had less physical problems. They didn't go to the doctor as much. And they even did some blood work on them, and they noticed that their immune system was in better condition than the non-journal people. So obviously there is some benefit to it. Okay, there's definitely some benefit to it. I'm going to link some information about that doctor in the information about the video, and you can see a little bit about him. He is pretty impressive. It's funny because when I was doing a little bit of research for this, he popped up, and I had a couple months ago just finished reading one of his other books. And in one of his other books, this is an aside, but there's another book that he wrote. It's called The Secret Life of Pronouns. So this guy is like on the same wave level as me. He's all into the same sort of stuff. Very interesting man. He does a lot of research. So he's always trying to figure out like how people think and what's going on. But he found that there was definitely some decrease even in, if you do this, you know, if you have issues with, you know, low level depression or maybe even some PTSD, this will help. Now, all that being said, I just want to tell you I am just a woman on YouTube. If you have serious depression, then you need to see a doctor. This is something that will help you get to some answers, but not if you're going through some heavy trauma, okay? And that researcher, that doctor actually said that this is not the thing to do right after trauma. This is something you do later on after you've processed it a little bit. Nothing to do with trauma that we're going to be doing in these prompts. The prompts are designed, I've done them myself. I've had a couple of clients who've done them, and they are designed to help you think about where you are and where you're going. That's all they're doing. So I hope that you find this information really helpful. I'd be curious to hear what you think. Like, which one of these is the most powerful for you? What I did when I was doing them, there's 7 prompts. I did it over 7 days. And I just took the question or the first prompt and just wrote about it for 10-15 minutes. One of them, and it was the one that had the most profound effect on me, I wrote like 4 pages on that. I just couldn't stop writing 4 big pages. So the reason I'm telling you about this, though, is because I've used this throughout my life. I was introduced to this very, very early in my life. My mother had used it, actually, surprisingly, and told me, this is what you should do whenever you want to just get to an answer. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's just stupid, but it really worked. It really worked. And I've used it all through my life. Now, I do not journal every day, but I know when I need to. I know when I need to. I'll give you a real quick example of this, though. Like, I'm going to give you a personal example. I told you all those scientific examples, but I'll give you a personal example. I was recently overseas, and I was at the end of my trip, and I had something that was like just bothering me. And I could feel it was bothering me. And it was very late at night, and I could not sleep. And I was having that obsessive thoughts. I just was like, oh, I wonder why. And oh, if I just watch some TV, that'll get out of my head. And it wasn't getting out of my head. I find that my thoughts, whenever I get into that kind of, when I have something pressing, something, from my subconscious is trying to get in, that what happens is there's usually 1 or 2 ways it'll show up. The first one is that it'll show up with like there's a wall, like I'm very visual, so like a wall, and it'll be just kind of peeking its head over. So I'm over on this side and it's peeking its head over. So I'll be just like, oh, everything is going good. No, it's not, because there he is watching me, that thought. And I can't get enough visual to figure out what the heck it is. The other thing that I feel, and you might have felt this over time, thank God it's not as much, but there's been times in my life where I have felt literally like it's almost like there's a wall blocking. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's something and there's just a wall, and the emotions kind of seep out between the bricks. And so on the other side of the wall, I am feeling the smoke and the stench of whatever on this side of the wall, but it can't get through the wall. One of the ways that I have heard people speak about this, that I've been chatting with over time, is they say things like, if I could just cry, I know that would be good, but I can't even cry. I can't even cry. So you can feel like you need to break through that wall. So I can tell you, this helps. This really helps. So back to my traveling. So and I'm going to just tell you, I was in Dublin at this time that this was happening. So I was in Dublin, Ireland, and it was the end of the trip, and it's very late at night, and I have a book, like, see this book here? I carry this with me everywhere, but I didn't take it with me because I was traveling internationally. So I didn't have paper. And every time I do this sort of review, I use the paper to get to my information. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, I went down to reception in the hotel, and I asked them for pen and paper, and they gave me a pen and this, those little pads that are about yay big. So they had one of those. It was like 8 pages, maybe 9 pages in it. And I was like, okay, I hope I can get it all done in this. So I went upstairs and I sat on the bed. And I mean, again, this is like getting into 1:30. And I just wrote. And cleaned all the pages. I mean, just did all the pages. In fact, I even wrote on the little cardboard thing behind it. I finished it up on the cardboard thing behind it. And I went, whew, it was almost like the wall had come down and that whatever was on the other side was able to come through. I had created a hole that information could come through. And it was pretty impressive. I could feel the information and I was like, whoa, look at that. That's what that is. So I could really feel it. And I furthermore could see, like, oh, my next step is this. And it's okay. I need to be kind to myself because this is why that happened. You know what I mean? I've been doing this so many years that I can see when I sit down to do this, I can like just tap in really quickly. So I'm telling you this little trick and I'm going to teach you prompts because I want you to learn how to do this yourself. I have, like I said, I've used this with a lot of clients. It gets to information pretty quickly and it allows you to just come at it a different way. If you think of a problem, and you want to surround it as many ways as you can. So if you have this one other tool that's going to allow you to chisel in through the back, then do it. Anyway, so here's the deal with it. Again, these are end of year prompts, so they're going to be like reflecting back over the short term. But if you see this video in June of next year and you want to do it to the beginning of the year, good for you. Good on you. If you want to do it for the full year, then obviously that works too. Whatever you want to do, even if you want to do it over a couple months, you're fine. But I'm doing it basically in December of 2021. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and there's a lot that's been going on. So it's a really good thing for somebody to do in the middle of that kind of turmoil on a global basis. So anyway, here it is. So the first question, and again, these are all going to be in the notes, but the first question I have for you is, or the first prompt is, the scariest thing I went through this year was. The scariest thing I went through this year was. Now, do you see why, like, you don't want to be doing these one on top of the other? Because this is going to make you think for real. The second one is, the most important goal I've achieved this year was. The most important goal I've achieved this year was. When I did this one, I really went deep. I had quite a few goals that I was pretty impressed with. So I was able to like look at all of them. Number 3, a big mistake I made and the lesson I learned from it was. This was the one. This was the one thing in doing these prompts that taught me the most out of these prompts. Really, I learned a big thing from this year. A big mistake I made, and the lesson I learned from it was. Okay. Number 4, this year I broke out of my comfort zone when, or this year I broke out of my comfort zone by. And excuse me, I have 2 dogs that need to get their little snackies. Because God forbid I'm talking on a computer and they don't get their snackies. Okay, and then the 5th one is, the habit I picked up this year is. This is an interesting one. I picked up a bad habit and a good habit. So you should look at it both ways. Was there a bad habit you picked up or was there a good habit you picked up? I picked up both. But it was really cool to look at that and see like, oh, that's the habit. That's, was it positive or negative? And how far is that going to hurt me or how far is it going to help me in the future? Number 6, this is, if you do this on the 6th day, this would be cool. The nicest thing somebody did for me this year was. The nicest thing somebody did for me this year was. Again, I'm used to journaling and that prompt. I had a hard time. I went immediately to something and then I was like, but then there was blah blah blah. I have a lot of nice people in my life. It's crazy. I have a lot of that. It was really, really long. Um, and number 7, and this should be the final one, okay? I really recommend that you do it over 7 days. I did, and I found it really, really effective. Number 7, if I could go back in time to the start of this year, here's some advice I'd tell myself. How crazy is that? If I could go back in time to the start of this year, here's some advice I'd tell myself. Not interesting. I had a good bit on that one too. And it really had helped that I had done all the other things beforehand. And I have to tell you, at the end of it, I was able to see that I could give myself some advice, but I can also see that I needed to learn some of my lessons. I told you, like, the big thing was the lesson I learned from it was I needed to learn that. So, anyway, I hope that is effective for you. If you have a chance, if you could leave some information in the comments and subscribe. I am going to be working on putting out more videos. I've actually got a coach who is really good at doing these videos, and he's a nice fella, and hopefully he's going to be able to help me to keep going on this. So I'm trying to do one a week. So, but if you could, put notes there, I'm happy to, I'll respond back to you if you've got questions. And again, I just want to give you a heads up that this is only an exercise to help you look back. This is not a cure for anything. If you do have any, if you have any kind of feeling of like, heavy depression or anything like that, this is the time to go see a doctor. I hope you don't. I hope you're just like, oh, I'm going to make 2022 better. Or I want to get a hold of things and I just want to figure out a different approach to the world. Then this will help you for sure. It's helped me. It's been very, very effective for me over the years. And I know that these prompts are going to help you at least get started. And remember, the other thing is try to keep in the solution when you do this. So, don't go like, if the scariest thing that you went through this year was, and you mention what the scary thing is, tell us, in your, tell yourself when you're writing, tell yourself, like, what did you do to get through that? What did you do to get through it? Stay in the solution, stay in the solution, stay in the solution. The more that you can stay in the solution, the better off you'll be in the long run. I hope this all helped you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And again, please give me comments so I can like see whether it worked or not. Thanks so much. Bye bye now.